Hi, this is Mark, and welcome to episode 42 of Nerdology. And my very special guests today are, in no particular order, Phil Cannon and Jim Cameron. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
Lovely to be here.
How are you both?
Oh, fine, thank you. Fine, thank you.
Yeah, Tickety Boo, thanks very much. Lovely to be here.
Excellent. Yes, it's been a long time coming, and particularly for Phil. Way back in the very early days of the show, I think we were going to get you on for an earlier episode, and due to various other commitments that you already had on, unfortunately, we couldn't make that happen. So
No, but we're finally here. Even though this one took
4
a bit
years
of a while
down
to
the
get
line.
together, but
well, if you want quality, you've got to be prepared to wait, haven't you?
I think
Oh,
you better
that's
keep,
pressure, chaps.
you better
Oh,
keep
dear,
waiting,
that's
Mark. I think.
that's setting me up for a fall, isn't it?
So I've said before, I like to think that this show is it's almost like a sort of therapy for Doctor Who podcasters, so they can come on and talk about things other than Doctor Who, just to give you a bit of a break from it.
Ah, we'll have
Very
to mention
kind
it.
of you. Yes.
Well, it's a service we like to provide. We were kind of bouncing ideas around, and you guys both pretty much simultaneously came up with Nigel Kneale's Beasts,
Yes.
which I have to admit I'd not heard of before.
You never heard of it before?
No, I mean
Oh.
I wouldn't say I'm a huge Nigel Kneale fan. I mean I adore Quatermass and The Pit, and I really love the Stone Tape. So I
Yes.
was aware of those. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was living under a rock. I mean, admittedly, I was only 3 when they went out at the time, so it wasn't perhaps on my radar. Obviously, you two gents are far older than me, so
Yeah, we were in our late
obviously
50s when it came out.
broadcast.
weren't we, Phil?
You both warm very
I just
well.
put
though.
my teeth back in. Hang on.
Very Dick Emery. Yeah. So yeah, Nigel Kneale's Beasts. It's a 6-part series, but they're not linked stories. They're all individual, discrete stories, but they all have a theme of, well, beasts.
Yes, indeed. It's I must admit, I don't remember watching this as a child. Anyway, I think it's probably on far too late for me to watch it. I don't know about yourself, Jim, but it's one of those things because you see it as sort of appear on lists of people's sort of DVDs. Oh, I bought Beast, I must watch it, and it sort of piqued my interest, especially as it's Nigel Kneale as well, like you, Mark, only really known from like Quatermass and the Stone Tape, of course. But yeah, it's a very, very interesting curio of a series, I think, and it's very much of its time.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. It's I think like a lot of old Doctor Who, it's quite an interesting watch just from the standpoint of how TV was made back then, and it does very much come across almost like a stage play, doesn't it? You have a very limited amount of locations. It's usually, well, in some of them it's just spent virtually entirely in one location, but there are the odd bits of outdoor shots, but it's very much framed in that way, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very much of the time. I don't remember seeing it at the time either. I would have been 8 when this came out, so I shouldn't have been watching it because it is a little bit too much for an 8-year-old, I would say. Plus, we had one TV, and but my folks didn't really watch a lot of ITV, so I don't think I would have seen this. Although one of the stories, the supermarket one, special offer, seemed vaguely familiar to me. So I don't know if I caught that by some other means, or I peeked through a crack in the door or something when that one was on.
So shall we start with that one then, seeing as that is... It's technically number 1, I think, from what I gather. They
I think
had it on at various other ITV regions, and they mixed the order up a bit, didn't they?
Yeah,
well, I think the different.
Sorry, I was going to say the DVD. It's the first on the second disc, isn't it? Special offer. So I'm not too sure whether what's on the DVD is the proper broadcast order for a particular region, but it doesn't really matter. As you say, none of them are really connected, are they?
Yeah, that's it. They're all...
Right. I think they're in a different orders in different regions because, of course, that was the way that the ITV channels worked back then, wasn't it?
Yeah,
that's right. So this was ATV, I think, was it?
It was, yeah.
It was, yeah.
Shows how great my memory is. I've only watched it recently, and I can't even remember who it was. There you go. Got there in the end. So yeah, special offer. Thoughts, chaps?
Well, again, as a set, it's a very convincing 1970s supermarket. Actually,
Yeah,
Depressingly so.
it is, isn't it? It will make so
it
many
makes you
happy
appreciate
memories.
how far we've come and possibly where we're going, thanks to certain elements of the. Let's not get into politics now.
Mark, didn't you know it was always better in the old days? Didn't you know that?
Yeah, this is proof, surely.
Yeah. And I mean, Pauline Quirk is the lead, I suppose you'd call her in this particular story. And
Yeah, I was going to say Pauline Quirk is someone I do remember from my childhood because she had a kids' TV show called Pauline's Quirks.
Yes.
Oh.
How original. Was it some kind of, I don't remember, Jim, was it some kind of magazine come comedy sketch show thing? You had like pop stars of the day like Flintlock on there and bands of that ilk.
Flintlock, what was this, 1782?
Actually, Flintlock, I think it's the lead singer of Flintlock is comedian Sarah Pascoe's father.
Oh, well, there
Really?
you go.
There you are. Yes.
Wasn't one member of the Tomorrow People in Flintlock? Am I right? Or would they have been too young?
No, wasn't it the youngest one out of the three? Or was it three or four? Yeah, he was in Flintlock, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were. We're
God,
plundering
somewhat,
our terrible ancient memories for this.
This is going to be a long evening, isn't it?
See, I first became aware of Pauline Quirk's oeuvre from Birds of a Feather, which is quite a way down the line from this.
It is, very much so.
Well, she was quite a kind of young star, wasn't she? She was in a lot of stuff. I mean, she's really good. You can see why she did so well, can't you? She's easily the best thing in this particular story. And they're showing, the fantastic TV channel Talking Pictures TV. They're showing the Shadows TV series, which is a ITV Kids TV series. She's in at least one of those. I haven't seen them all yet.
Okay.
Again, really good. So it needs to be a young actress, doesn't it, for the part? And it also needs to be, with no disrespect to Pauline Quirk, it also needs to be someone fairly dowdy.
Well, I think they did sort of help her out by making
did.
her hair look particularly greasy and,
Lots of
and national health
I
glasses.
think it was an acting role. I don't think they just sort of, grabbed her off the street and said, say these lines. I think,
she came looking her best and they just put her straight into the set. They'd certainly give her help. But I mean, she just carries it with her performance, and she's brilliant in this.
Yeah.
With that kind of
I mean, it stretches the whole sort of Beast's overarching theme somewhat because it's a sort of a mascot rather than, well, technically a mascot, but it's her. Spoilers, everyone. It's her being slightly. Well, how would you describe it?
Well, she goes a bit carry on the place, doesn't she?
Yeah, she does a little bit. Yeah, I was going to say ESP, but that's not really it, is it? It's more sort of.
She goes carry on their asses. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carry on up their asses.
Out next year, that one. Finally released.
But
because obviously, as you said, the mascot Brightway Billy of this supermarket chain, they believe it's she believes it's that has come to life.
Yeah.
And I suppose really it's. I mean, she's got a crush on the store manager as well. The actor I've seen in other things, and he plays a complete dick in those as well, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah,
he really
he was in Doctor Who, wasn't he, at one point?
Yeah,
Yes. So I've never played any other character other than that, really, sort of like instantly dislikable. And you can't feel sorry for him at all.
No,
not at all.
Really can't. But but it's this whole thing of she's only can see Brightway Billy making all this mess and knocking things off the shelves. It's actually her, isn't it? But you're led to believe that this store mascot has actually come to life.
Well, it's essentially a poltergeist, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
controlled by her because her unrequited love. Because it tends to happen, doesn't it, when she sees him flirting with somebody, Mr. Grimley, the store manager, when he flirts with somebody, she loses her rag and then unleashes her inner squirrel.
He does seem to have a habit of hiring what I think at the time would have been described as dolly birds.
Yes, well, one of them is Shirley Cheriton out of Angels, who was one of my earliest crushes, I think.
Oh.
Yes. So that's the idea. But as you say, it somewhat stretches the Beast's idea. But then a couple of the others do as well. Really.
Yeah. I thought the effects were
quite literal. I think.
When you consider, it was 1976, so they are limited to. They don't have the benefit of CGI and a great deal of visual effects, so they were reliant on actually physically achieving whatever they set out to do. And I think they did a pretty good job on the whole. Do you think?
Yeah, you can't see how they're doing any of it.
No, you can't. No. You really can't. I mean, there's no sort of visible wires or hands peeking out from behind shelves or something.
No.
It's incredibly well done.
It is.
And I think they, after sort of, as I said, they lovingly construct a 1970s supermarket. And they literally destroyed the set, don't they? In during the course of this story,
pretty much.
And it's extremely well done for its day, especially it hasn't got a lot of budget, and it's studio bound as well, which usually gives away all its shortcomings when it's on a tight budget. But so in this particular one, it didn't.
No, I think it worked in its favour to a degree.
Yeah, I think it did. Even with the little cafe across the road as well, which was almost like one set. You could see from one set into the other, couldn't you? At certain points. I'd say it was really good. Actually, it was very well acted, and Pauline Quirk does it really well. She plays the lovesick shop assistant. But then she sort of flips that switch and becomes, as you say, gets all carry on their ass. So it's.
I imagine it could be quite easy to get into. It goes very over the top. But I don't think she ever really does that. I think it's quite a controlled performance. I think she does a really good job.
She also manages to keep you on her side, really. Even by the end,
I
think you're still on her side, even though she's trashing this shop with her weird mind stuff. She's still sympathetic to the end, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone treats it very, very. All their characters actually treat it appallingly, don't they? Really?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Well, there's one lad in the storeroom who's kind of friends with her, but he turns against because he gets scared of her, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So by the end, she's got nobody except the old HR bloke comes in, doesn't he? The personnel man. Comes in and things come to a head after that, but he tries to befriend her, doesn't he? But it all goes a bit far.
Too little, too late, really.
I think so. Yeah.
So, do you think there are any? I mean, not necessarily just specifically on this episode, but do you think there are any sort of tropes of Nigel Kneale's writing that come across in this series that you can pick out and think, oh yeah, that's a very Nigel Kneale sort of thing?
Do you know what? I think this is completely, from what I've seen of his stuff, and I must admit it's fairly limited because I say it's mainly Quatermass and the Stone Tape. I think this is probably a bit different for him.
Yeah, it does seem of a piece, doesn't it? Seems...
Yeah. Having that theme, the whole, I suppose it's nature versus humanity kind of thread that sort of runs through it in a kind of way. There's also sort of like a supernatural bent to it as well, which again you could say that's very Nigel Kneale. Yeah, I mean even Quatermass and the Pit. To me it's not straightforward science fiction. I think there's an element of supernatural.
Yeah, he has this real knack for creepiness.
Yes,
yeah.
I wouldn't say this particular story was creepy though. I think it's the wrong kind of setting for it to be creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think one of the things that he liked doing was sort of finding terror in everyday situations, and you don't get much more every day than a little supermarket like that, a high street supermarket. But I think sort of plot-wise, I suppose the nearest one to any of the stuff that he's done that I know would be Baby.
I was thinking that.
Yeah, has nods to Quatermass and the Pit, doesn't it?
Which we'll cover in a bit.
Mm.
Or shall we cover it next? I mean, we don't have to stick to the order they come up on the list.
Since we mentioned it, might as well do this one next then.
Yeah, let's do that.
This was one of the picks for me. I must admit, I did find not so much the quality, but my interest varied from episode to episode.
Yeah.
And this one really gripped me. It had those signature things, and the whole thing where they discover the pot behind the wall. That's very reminiscent of Quatermass and the Pit and that kind of
even the thing they pull out
element.
Is similar.
Well, yeah, quite.
Yeah. Do you know what? I found this was more in line with something like M.R. James.
Yes.
One of the Christmas ghost stories.
Yeah.
There was one in particular. I think it was The Treasure of Abbot Thomas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Where you've got it's the same sort of story. There's something bricked up which must never be taken out again, and when they do, it's the scientific curiosity basically gets the better of the protagonist, and there's always a price to pay. And it's a similar kind of story. So, but of course, this one stars the 1970s sex god Simon McCorkindale, Manimal himself. Yeah, sorry, Manimal.
Without the lumpy hands.
Without the lumpy hands. Yeah. And Jane Wymark, who the name might not be familiar, but the face might be. Yes. She was in Midsummer Murders.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
John Nettle's wife in
his skeletal wife. She always looks like a skull with a wig on in that. I always think.
Nice.
Maybe that's
she always speaks very highly of you, Jim.
Yes. Which for some reason my wife mistook for she mistook Jane Wymark as Jane out of Rod, Jane and Freddie for some reason.
Oh my God.
I don't know why. It's nothing alike, but
that could have been a very different episode.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, musical.
Indeed.
Her father is Patrick Wymark, isn't it?
Yes.
He's been in quite a few like Hammer horror films, for instance, or Amicus ones. Yes.
Yes, indeed.
That name definitely.
And of course, Where Eagles Dare.
Of course.
That could be it then. That might be where I recognise him from.
Yeah, see, I don't want to spoil the film for everybody, but he was the traitor at the end. There you are.
Oh, I haven't got around to watching that yet. For the 100th time.
Don't worry, it'll be on next Christmas.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really like this one. I thought the setup was really good when you see her arriving at the new house, and you get the idea straight away that something's not right. She brings the cat in the basket, it's freaking out, and it has to get away. And you got the two guys there who are working on the building. And yeah, I think the setup is brilliant. I think the tension really starts to rack up. I do question what on earth is going through Simon McCorkindale's mind when he doesn't want to get rid of the damn thing. I don't understand.
Well, it's a scientific curiosity.
Motivation for keeping it.
Yeah,
that's what leads their downfall, doesn't it? Because he's a vet, isn't he? We should say. So to find an unidentified, mummified animal that you can't work out what species it is.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, by all means, try and identify it, but
don't leave it in the house.
Keep it in a closet in the bathroom. Come on,
in the nursery.
Take it to your veterinary surgery or something, or take it to a place like an isolation place where you'd have animals that you keep away from. Because you don't know what it's died of.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, not animals, manimals.
Sorry, yeah.
Well, that's
it always strike me as a bit. May I've just been really picky there, but yeah.
Well, in every horror film, one of the leads has to do something incredibly stupid, don't they?
That's right.
Let's all split up.
That's the one in this story, isn't it? Yeah.
I wouldn't say that they do anything particularly stupid. I think that they're just incredibly, I'd say, naive. They ignore all the warning signs, don't they? And it's kind of that. But very much of its time, it's they don't believe the hysterical woman.
Oh yeah,
It's very much like that. I mean, she knows exactly what's going on, but come along, my dear, we're men of science.
Yes,
it's that kind of it's that kind of story. But obviously, she's proven right at the end.
Yeah, indeed. Simon McCorkindale can't hear the incidental music, so he doesn't know anything creepy is happening. He just thinks it's all okay.
No, that's good. It's got a lot of atmosphere.
Yeah.
This story, it really has. I think any of this kind of tale, I think, is always very, very atmospheric. Especially things bricked up in walls and animals behaving strangely and people having nightmares about it and hearing and seeing things. It's I love that kind of
rural
story.
horror.
I really do.
Thing to it as well, hasn't it? Going out in the woods,
Yes.
and something creepy about, and of course, it's spoiler alert. There's a witch involved. So it's.
I mean, not thematically, but I think I was getting a real Ghostwatch vibe out of it.
Oh, I know what you mean.
Racking up the tension and just the reveal at the end, and it's all very.
Do you know what? I've never seen Ghostwatch.
Oh, Phil.
Never seen it. I don't know why it passed me by at the time, but knowing now what it was and what a fantastic sort of Halloween trick to everybody.
I remember watching it as it went out.
Because the Radio Times spoilt it by giving away the cast list, and it was done as a play, and it's meant to be like the joke's on us. It's meant to be live television, and Michael Parkinson gets taken over, probably by the spirit of Jamie Cullum. But there you are.
Rod Hull.
That bloody emu.
Well, Inside Number 9 did the nearest equivalent, didn't they? For not our generation, because we were old enough to see that, I guess. But that's the latest version of that sort of thing, isn't it? Their live episode.
But that was done right. It was done something. It's a live episode, and you generally thought things were going wrong with the transmission, and they spun it into something else. That was incredibly well done. But anyway, I'm not talking about Inside Number 9. That'll probably be another episode entirely. That one. But,
maybe we'll get you back with that one.
maybe.
So yeah, that was, to me, that was the pick of the bunch. I just really it just spoke to me, and I was really gripped by it, and I thought all the cast were really good.
It's my favourite. I remember the first time I watched this, I was actually alone in the house at the time, and I was watching it quite late at night, and I just saw the one episode. I didn't watch anything else afterwards, so I just saw this one in isolation. And I went
out to the kitchen for a snack, knocked a hole in the wall.
Isn't it great? But just to pop back to the plot for a second, it's great, and how 70s it was to see Simon McCorkindale in real time knocking bricks out of a wall to get to this thing. There are no cuts or anything. You just watch him just heaving bricks out of this wall. But as I say, I watched this first time on my own, and I went around, checked all the doors, turned the lights on. It absolutely scared me crapless. This did the first time I saw it, and it still packs a punch on subsequent viewings, I think.
Yeah,
but one of the big
It
things throughout all this is the sound design, which is absolutely superb in all 6 episodes, I think. But that sound, when we see the Jane Wymark character come down, and you can hear the rocking chair going, and you can hear suckling going on, can't you?
It's
gruesome. Not that there's anything wrong with that, ladies.
No, of course not. No.
But it is if it's a witch and a creature of unidentified species. So
Well, I think that's the thing now, and that's what I like about this sort of particular era of, I suppose you could say, like television horror or thriller, is that obviously they couldn't always afford to show the monster.
Yeah, unless there's more.
So a lot of it's exactly. It was left up to your imagination, or you just heard.
Yeah.
So what was going on, right? And you just saw the protagonist's reaction to that, which to my works a hell of a lot better than showing all the blood and gore.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm not a fan of modern horror.
No,
at all.
I mean,
I'm very much firmly stuck in the Hammer and the old Universal horror traditions.
Yeah, I think,
to be honest,
cinema went through that whole phase of, I think they called it torture porn, where you had more and more gory stuff, and it just put me right off. I'd rather watch something like Alien, which is real shit your pants scary stuff, but you don't really see that much.
It's gory. Exactly. It does show you, but it's over sort of fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And I think because it's over quickly, it remains in the memory of that much longer, because it's that quick flash of horror, and it stays with you. And I think that's why things like baby. I think after you watch it, it will stay with you.
Definitely.
No, definitely do. Yeah.
Really will. Can we move on to my favourite actually? And that's The Dummy. Now we're talking about Hammer horror films.
Nice segue.
Yes, The Dummy, which I thought was brilliant. Again, stretching that concept of beasts and nature, and really, this is really the story of a man having a nervous breakdown. Really, but it's the whole taking extracting the Michael out of that whole Hammer amicus horror trope thing, or having a very unconvincing monster. Lumbering around a film set, which I thought. I mean, Bernard Horsfall is the lead actor in this one. Again, known to Doctor Who fans out there. But I thought he was brilliant.
Yeah, he was very good
in this. Really, yeah. I didn't think he overplayed the breakdown too much.
No, I thought,
to be honest,
it was quite a measured performance.
Yeah. Especially sort of, he's turned to drink. 'Cause his wife has, I don't want to spoil the whole thing for him, but his wife has left him for this other actor who's now starring in this latest Dummy film. Because The Dummy is the name of the character Bernard Horsfall plays. It's like this, the main monster of this series. And it all sort of unravels from there, really, doesn't it? And again, I think to make use of the studio in its entirety. To make this story, I thought was very, very well done.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's very,
obviously a cost-saving exercise as well. So, yeah. But I just really liked it. I liked it. I like the fact that the outfit was unconvincing.
Yeah, sort of Godzilla sort of outfit, isn't it? Although they don't
watch out for its hands, though it'll crush you.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But obviously it adorns the DVD cover as well, The Dummy, doesn't it? So you if you spot it on the shelf or just Google Nigel Kneale's Beast, that's what you'll see as an image.
I think that's a slight problem, don't you? Because if you think, I wonder what this is like, and you see that on the front, which is intentionally bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
You'll think, oh God, this is absolutely awful. I'm not going to bother.
But then I guess if you see the name Nigel Kneale, you're hopefully going to think, well, there's going to be a bit of substance behind it.
Am I right in thinking that Nigel Kneale had a bit of a run-in with Hammer? And I think this was a slight revenge.
Okay, yeah, because the whole Quatermass thing.
That, yeah. So he's taking the piss out of Hammer films in this. They even get Thorley Walters, Hammer staple it.
Oh, yeah, isn't he brilliant?
For a bit part, don't they?
Yeah, it's forever coming in and out asking if it's his time to go on.
Yes.
Yeah, that was it.
And Clive Swift as well.
That was good.
Yes.
Yes.
Who fan Clive Swift.
And also, if you're an M.R. James fan as well, Clive Swift was in two stories.
Oh, was he?
Of that as well, yeah. So playing the same character, funnily enough, but in both stories. But it's I just really like it because I think once that he has his breakdown, and basically he becomes the character he plays. He completely, I mean, it's real method acting, isn't it? He loses himself in the character, but without the costume on. He just completely loses it. So the thing is, though, it is that sight of Bernard Horsfall in his vest and pants, a very 1970s vest and pants as well, actually. Yeah,
that is unintentionally funny. That,
and it certainly is a powerful image.
Like you said, Phil, it stays with you.
They'll haunt me to my dying day.
You do feel sorry for him, though, don't you? Apart from the whole thing of his wife and whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is though that the man or the actor whose wife has run off is instantly dislikable
he's
and
an
slimy.
Cock, isn't he?
Yeah,
totally. He is.
No two ways about it.
There is no two ways. There's no beating about the bush on that, and you can't wait for him to get his own come up.
Yeah, you're waiting for it to happen. He's Simon Oates, famous for Doomwatch. I don't know if
yes, indeed.
He's good in that. Yeah, there's a little line, isn't there? I mean, I think the whole theme of this is kind of like the inner rage, sort of animalistic rage. If you're pushed to certain lengths, it will come out. And I think that's what happens to the Clyde character here. But there's a little line, isn't there, from the journalist who's the evil Zygon nurse in Terror of the Zygons.
Oh, that's right.
She talks about African masks.
It's like Doctor Who bingo, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Oh,
It is, isn't it?
she talks about these African tribal ceremonies where the leader will put on an animal mask, and the tribe will think that the mask itself is alive and turns the leader into the animal that it's representing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is kind of mirrored in what happens when he puts the dummy uniform on, the dummy outfit, I should say.
See, again, it's more supernatural, isn't it?
Oh, it could be, or this is it could go either
you could
way.
read it two ways.
Yeah, you could read this in two ways. Either he's just gone nuts because of just so much stuff has come on top for him, hasn't it? Or you could believe that it's something that the outfit is doing for him.
Yeah. I suppose that the other thing to link it back to the whole beasts thread again, it's almost like he's gone primal to a certain degree.
Yeah.
He's become an animal, hasn't he? Even though it's a make-believe animal, but an animal, nevertheless. So I think on that front it works. But I just like there is a lot of tension in this one because you don't know where he's going to spring out from next. So they're trying to sort of coax him out.
Yeah.
And the fact they have to lock him in the studio as well because he has gone, he's willing to kill anybody gets in his way,
Yeah,
So.
it's very unpredictable, isn't it? You don't know what's going to happen in this one.
Yeah, so I think that's why I like it. That's why I like it. As I said, I think Bernard Horsfall is really good. But then again, I'd like Bernard Horsfall in just about everything I've seen him in, if I'm honest with you.
Good actor, definitely.
Yeah, that's. I was going to say go from the sublime to the ridiculous. I think the worst one on here is Buddy Boy.
Yes, I thought I was alone on that.
You're not. That makes three of us.
Yeah, this is one's bizarre.
It is weird, isn't it?
Certainly that.
And not from the point of view of what it is. It's just the fact that the whole thing is surrounds around a indoor dolphin pool in the tiniest set you've ever seen in your entire life for a dolphin pool. I mean, it's just such a weird concept, and it's haunting this building, which wants to be taken by a porn baron played by Martin Shaw.
Yeah.
You couldn't make it up.
It's just
Nigel Kneale could.
You couldn't.
And you got the Scotch guy from
it ain't
Hot Mum as well.
Yes, was it Stuart McGugan? Yes. This is stretching that concept just a little bit too far. This one.
Well, this is odd. I mean, I suppose it's a little bit about man's relationship to animals, isn't it? I mean, who's the owner? Hubbard, isn't it? The dolphin, the best dolphin in the group, Buddy Boy, it seems to be getting the better of him, doesn't it? Which doesn't seem difficult, seeing how inept this bloke is.
Not really, no.
But so he basically tortures it, doesn't he? Gets him out of the water for a whole night, doesn't he? And that's very bad for a dolphin because their lungs get crushed and all sorts. And then the dolphin sort of haunts him, doesn't it, afterwards? And then there's, the kind of the nicer sort of relationship of human to animal is Lucy, isn't it? Who's she seems slightly what in the 70s would have been called simple, sort of learning difficulties type. I think isn't she? She's supposed to be portrayed that way. I mean, she had a very almost too close relationship with the dolphins. And she used to go swimming with them. No doubt, she used to grab hold of their tummy bananas and get pulled around the pool.
Whoa!
They don't out and out say it, but you get the idea. You get that idea, or at least my filthy
mind
did.
Wow. Maybe I've just lived a very sheltered life, Jim, but I never thought of that.
Yet again, that certainly is a powerful image.
Oh dear. Let's not even start on the blowhole. I think this one's definitely going to be getting an explicit tag.
Yes. Jim sets them up, you knock them down.
Well, yeah, quite. And speaking of which, the sex scene was quite disturbing as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you not think?
It didn't seem that consensual either.
No, and it seemed extremely unlikely as well, I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no, there's all sorts of wrong with this
Yeah.
particular episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
Which I suppose is what they're trying
yeah,
to achieve, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what's going through Nigel Kneale's mind. You know, I suppose it's that exploitation of animals,
Yeah.
really, and sort of like that coming back to haunt humankind.
Mm-hmm.
But as it was the 70s, it would be mankind. So yeah, but again, I suppose you could say like a dolphin haunting is originalised here.
Definitely original. Yeah.
But I think that's about as much as it's got going for it, really.
I suppose it's about the exploitation of people as well, isn't it? You know, because of the porn cinema and all that kind of stuff, and the way that every woman in this story gets treated. They get treated very badly by the men, don't they? In fact, that's a theme that runs through a lot of these 6 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
But then that might be the sign of the times. You know, that might be. It was just,
I think you could be right there, Jim. Actually, I think it is a sign of the times. I mean, you know, the first time you see Martin Shaw in this, he's viewing as you know, for want of a better description, a topless woman, for one of his acts. Or, you know, it's. I mean, there's no likable characters in this particular story at all, except maybe for Lucy.
No. She's slightly too annoying to be likable.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's no one to really root for in this particular episode, is there? You know, you don't want to see anyone, you know, particularly come out on top on this one. You want the dolphin to exact its blood curdling revenge really,
from beyond its watery grave.
I'm just trying to imagine what Judith Kerr would have made of all this. She was Nigel Kneale's wife.
Oh, right.
And she's probably better known in our household than Nigel Kneale because she wrote the Mog books.
Oh, really?
Yes, she did. Yes, of course. Yeah, she passed
and the Tiger Who
recently,
Came to
didn't
Tea.
she?
And
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I just can't imagine the lady who wrote those also having to read through sexy dolphins and
sexy dolphins.
Maybe that's what she egged on Nigel. She read the script. What this needs is more tits.
not enough dolphins for me.
Great, but needs a dolphin.
Well, obviously, it wasn't just a one-sided relationship because the dolphin obviously goes a bit banana pants crazy and does her in the end because obviously he's very jealous that she's been having it away with Martin Shaw.
Yeah, indeed.
Having it off, as I say, in a couple of the episodes of this. It takes you back to the 70s watching this. All those phrases.
Was it getting his leg over?
How times have changed.
Yeah, I have to say, for me, it was a bit of a dud. And I was slightly worried about coming on and talking about that one because I wasn't sure how revered this series was by you guys, and I wasn't sure whether you'd be.
Do you know what? I don't think it is. So I'm name dropping now. When I had a conversation with Toby Haydock, who's a big Nigel Kneale aficionado. Yeah. And he's currently writing a book about him, and he also did that for Radio 4. He did that Lost Nigel Kneale play, The Road, which was very, very good actually, very good. But he's when I was talking to him at that point, I hadn't actually got around to watching this DVD box set, and he said, to be honest, there's only one really outstanding story on this, which I think we should save till last, which is during Barty's party.
Oh, okay. Right.
Yeah, that's his, and it is a good one. It is very, very good. So I suppose before we get to that, we've got What Big Eyes.
Yeah.
A supposed werewolf story.
I think the phrase "banana pants crazy" springs to mind.
Well, for God's sake, it's got Patrick McGee in it, for crying out loud.
Never played anyone sane in his career.
I mean, he is very method, isn't he?
He's got to be the most eccentric actor no matter what I've seen him in. He's always played that kind of part, and he plays it that way.
Oh, he's a great bit of casting. I mean, I must admit, I've not really seen him in much else, but he really fits the bill.
He's terrifying actor, I think. He's very, very unsettling in anything I've seen. I mean, he's in one of the Portmanteau Amicus films, isn't it? When the screaming starts, is it? Or one of those?
Isn't it the one?
Someone where he keeps the animals. Is it dogs he keeps?
It's the old the old sort of gentleman's rest home, isn't it? And they're all I think they're all basically blind, aren't they?
Yeah, it's a home for old blind men. It's just strange as that seems.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I try to remember if they were all blind or not. Yeah, they were, weren't they? And a new manager comes in, like an older ex-army major, comes in and basically sort of cuts costs and basically runs the place into the ground. And they finally had enough, and one of their number die, and they exact their revenge on him. And he's very, very menacing in that, and he's menacing in this as well.
He was King Lear in one of the BBC productions.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Well, I think King Lear, from what I remember, King Lear has a descent into man. I suspect he played it mad from the first line.
You're making me think of Tom Baker now when he was talking about him doing Shakespeare, and he said, I felt really bad because all these people had come to see me because I've been in Doctor Who, so I thought, well, I'll just play it like Doctor Who, and the number of laughs I got was incredible. This is one of the tragedies that he's supposed to be playing, but somebody was saying earlier about how the women really come off really badly in all of these, pretty much, and his daughter, God. He feels so bad for her. I mean,
it's I suppose the description would be doormats, wouldn't it?
And she's given up her whole life for this absolute crazy person, and
basket case, really,
he just feels so bad for her.
Well, I wonder if the I was just wondering if you're looking for sort of parallels, and this is all about wolves, isn't it, and wolf packs and stuff. I'm wondering if there's the pecking order of the wolf pack here, and it's also goes into the humans in the story, because he sees himself as pack leader and her very much as a subordinate to him. I just wonder if it's like the background theme to this.
Yeah, but you've also got, again, you've got that sort of psychological aspect to it. Then again, he puts in that supernatural thing, because he's literally trying to become like a wolf, isn't he?
Through scientific means, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The tension racks up, because the whole way through you're watching, you're thinking, this guy is nuts. This guy is crazy. And then when I must admit, when he, inverted commas, dies, you can see his stomach going up and down quite easily.
Yes.
It's the worst bit of dead acting I've ever seen.
Yeah, not the best corpse ever, but there's always that feeling when they put the cloth over his face that some sort of transformation is going to happen. And they do hint at that, don't they? And they try and sort of play that up, and then of course they take it off, and it's revealed that he's just normal.
Well, there's a kind of it looks like a snout underneath the sheet, doesn't it? It looks like a wolf's snout underneath it. Are we supposed to think that's what Florence is seeing, or what is actually happening? I think it's what she's seeing, because at the end of this, you don't think he has transformed or was ever likely to, really. I think that's she's nuts by the end of this, isn't she, as well?
Well,
God,
so I'm wondering if that's sort of from her point of view, but it's quite a good moment. I must admit, slightly worried that they were going to have some really terrible werewolf makeup on when they flip the thing back, and I was kind of relieved that no transformation had taken place, really.
Yeah, it was sort of it sort of really, really heavily hinted that, as you said, Mark, when they're going to pull back the blanket, there's going to be a werewolf under there. Because that was the whole thing. He said when he dies, he's going to be reborn as this sort of werewolf. And as you say, it didn't happen. But they, right up until that moment, with the reveal, when the reveal is nothing happened, you're still waiting for that, sort of like you're on the edge of your seat kind of thing, waiting for that werewolf reveal, which doesn't happen. So they just sort of pull it back from the brink of that whole supernatural aspect again.
Yeah.
They sort of, I think, frankly, sort of dangle that carrot to a certain degree, and then sort of whip it away from you, just as you're about to grab it. So I suppose it's fairly atmospheric. I mean, Patrick McGee starts staring bonkers in this, I think Michael Kitchen does a relatively good.
Yeah, he does.
Performance,
He does.
Great.
actually. But I've always liked Michael Kitchen. I think he's a good actor.
He's very good on the Doctor Who show. Oh no, that's David Kitchen, isn't it? Sorry.
Wrong person, wrong continent.
Indeed. Yes. No, I thought I'd say because he's I think really cast against type in that Brian Pern.
Oh
Life
yes,
of Rock.
Yeah, it's a foul-mouthed manager.
As yeah, I think he's absolutely fantastic in that.
Superb in that. But he's great in this. I mean, this whole thing, it's a three-hander essentially, isn't it? There's not a huge amount of action, but a ton of exposition. But the acting is so good in this, particularly from Patrick McGee and Michael Kitchen, that you almost don't notice how little action there is. The performances just carry you through it, I think.
Yeah, certainly. But that's the thing. The main thing about most of these stories, they're all really sort of three-handers, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very, very small casts.
You know, and there's, as we've been going through this, it's all like a veritable who's who of 1970s actors or Doctor Who actors, really. So I think if you switch one on, you put one in, you'd recognise at least one or two of the faces.
Yes, definitely.
In it, so I think from that point of view, that's why it's such a curio. This particular series, and it was only one series as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
they didn't make any more after this. But no, I think it's I think if you're expecting a werewolf reveal at the end, as we said, you're going to be disappointed, really. But it is very, very good.
It works from the sort of the human drama point of view, though, doesn't it?
Because
she
on a psychological level.
Yeah, it's a psychological thriller essentially, isn't it? You know how this man, this crazy man's actions have affected people, particularly his daughter, and her sort of breakdown at the end. And it ends with her actually. She turns against him, doesn't she? And at the very end, she gets back on side, doesn't she?
Yeah.
It's,
very good.
I can only imagine the life the poor woman's had.
Oh, awful. Yeah, because I mean, he didn't let her go out or anything, and she had one suitor which he completely cock blocked, and these. It was her life has just been spent serving him and being roundly insulted throughout that time, just to keep that, as I was saying, keep that sort of pecking order there. He was so rude to her, made her feel worthless and made her feel that he was this genius, which clearly, no matter what he thought, he probably wasn't. He just ended up.
Well, he wasn't. It didn't work.
He blood poisoned himself, and he put his own sort of blood serum into one of the Timberwolves, which had to be put down. So, I mean, nothing he did came to anything. Yeah,
no.
Well, it certainly worked for me in terms of being very unsettling. I found his performance particularly creepy.
It's horrible.
It was
really horrible.
Yeah.
So I suppose what we got left now is during Barty's party.
Yeah, now this was the first one that I watched because I kind of watched them out of order because you guys happened to mention that they were available on a certain video sharing website.
Yes, you can share, or you can buy them from Network DVD.
You can, if you're not a tight-fisted git like me. I thought this was fantastic. I really enjoyed this one.
This is really good, actually. As recommended by Toby Haydock. So there you are.
Somebody mentioned earlier the sound design, and I think it really comes to the fore in this one.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The sound designer gets a credit at the end. I'm not sure they do on the end of any of the other episodes, but they certainly do on this one. There's a credit for sound design.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely of paramount importance. And this is the main thing, really. We talk about lack of budget and not realising a rat invasion would be very difficult. But
well, yeah, I mean, considering you mentioned Simon Oates and Doomwatch.
I was just going to say that it didn't work out very well in the Year of the Rat, did it?
No, it didn't exactly. So if you can't afford to do it, don't show it. Which is exactly what this did, and they get it spot on. Yeah, absolutely spot on. You don't see a single rat at all, and this is just a two-hander. This story. And I found it was incredibly unsettling.
Well, right from the beginning,
from the beginning,
when you see that abandoned sports car, and then, obviously, to use the contemporary parlance, a man and woman are having it off in the fields, and then you just hear the terrible screaming from them. And then that's the first time you hear the
Yeah.
radio, don't you? Is on the car radio, and that's a theme throughout this, isn't it? That's what Barty's Party
Yeah.
is. It's a
Suitably
absolute
cheesy.
dreadful radio program.
But I suppose really the two characters in it are very sort of stereotypical, almost like Terry and June like, aren't they? Very
Yeah.
very middle class. What wifey's at home all day long. Gets the husband a drink when he gets home from a long day at work. You know,
Yes.
that's that kind of thing. But what I liked as the tension racks up and she's slowly going hysterical through all the noise and the constant scratching of the rats. Towards at the end, the roles are reversed. Which I thought was brilliant.
He absolutely flips, doesn't he? At the end, he's just a sort of bag of jelly, isn't he? By the end, and then she takes charge. I thought that was a really good moment, particularly in how women have been portrayed in these 6 episodes.
Yes, indeed. Because I say, I don't know if it was intentional why this was the last one on the DVD box set. It's sort of as we said, there's that theme of women being treated rather appallingly. I think very much in keeping with the time. But this does flip that around somewhat. She's no damsel in distress come the end of this.
I wonder.
It's difficult to talk to this one without spoiling the ending.
Well, I would
Really?
I would think that anyone
endings,
who's really going to search out this episode is probably
I know,
gonna
but this
watched
is
it, to be fair.
particularly good. This one, isn't it? Though that's the. I don't know how to sort of play this well, but basically, I think the bit that got me when they think they're saved, the scratching has stopped.
Yeah.
Their neighbours have turned up, and again, you don't see the neighbours; you just hear their voices, and then you hear them being attacked by the rats, and that was one of the most unnerving things in this entire story.
Particularly as children there as well, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God,
That was really horrible, that bit. But again, it's left up to your imagination. You didn't see anything. You just heard it, and that's all you need to do.
The reaction
with
from
that
the
one.
two leads as well, looking out the window.
Yeah.
That's all you need to make that work.
Yeah, really, really good.
No, it was a standout for me.
But it was the thing at the end when they're trying to sort of barricade themselves in from this. The rats have now turned their attention back to them again, and the onslaught now is pretty relentless. And again, it just proves how middle class they have fencing masks.
Yes. Every home has a few of them.
Don't you have those hanging around a house, Phil? Come on.
But the thing was, though, she said, right, put these on because basically the rats were going to gnaw their eyes out. They did that that pretty much said everything, really, to me. That the fact they put them on not because it was sort of like it seemed like a good idea at the time. It was a practical use because they basically would have their faces gnawed off. Yeah, it was. I actually thought this one was pretty terrifying. Actually,
it is. It reaches a real sort of fever pitch by the end, doesn't it? It racks up throughout, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think the other thing as well, when you think they've got that lifeline, because they get through to Barty's party.
Yes.
On the radio.
After all, he's not quite so much of a dick as he appears, isn't he? Because he actually, he's worried about them, and he tries to sort of mobilise the listeners, doesn't he, to try and get them to locate them and help. Yeah.
But then it sort of comes out across on the road. There's thousands of these massive rats crossing country roads and attacking people. So it's like a nationwide sort of invasion now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they really do, rack up the tension in this one. I think it's great. I think it's absolutely great, this one. And okay, the Dummy's my favourite because it's the Hammer theme, but I think this is probably the best story on this DVD set or out of the series, really.
Oh yeah, it's well, I'm glad I watched it first because it really set up the tone of what they're. I don't know, they're all slightly different, but it really got me gripped to want to watch the others.
Yes, indeed. You start off watching this one, you end up with a crushing disappointment of Buddy Boys.
Well, yeah, I mean, thankfully I didn't watch that one first, otherwise it could have been.
Lads, can we do something else?
So you're going with Barty's Party as your favourite, yeah?
I think that the Dummy's still my favourite, but I think this is, out of all the stories, I think this is probably the best written story, and I think it's probably got the best sort of hook out of the Beast's theme.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Really?
Yeah, it's truest to the theme, isn't it? You know, it's animals gaining superiority over humans, really, isn't it? What's happening?
Yeah, and
the worm that turns, sort of thing.
And I suppose what's more terrifying than a rat invasion, really, because that again, it's that base fear. A lot of people are terrified of rats, and it's also that home invasion aspect of things. Back in the 70s, that whole thing of an Englishman's home is his castle was very much at the forefront of family life, really, wasn't it, to a certain degree? And this just sort of said, well, actually, no, it isn't. There is no safe hiding place.
And again, it's kind of a revenge thing for man's actions, isn't it? Because of all the poisons they used, the super rats have emerged from the poisoning, which have killed millions of these rats, and they've overcome what man was using to stop them, and now they're taking revenge. It's a terrific idea, and obviously very much in the theme of this series.
I'm trying to think what came first, this or James Herbert's Rats?
Yeah, I was thinking that
He's in
earlier.
the 70s, wasn't he, Herbert? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't think when it was. Because again, very similar, the whole rat invasion thing, and probably one of the most, I suppose, well-known horror books of the 1970s, I think, The Rats.
I became aware of it back as a kid because they did a ZX Spectrum game of it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Wow.
I
It's
don't
like an
remember
adventure
that.
game, yeah.
Good God.
I never had the game, but I remember seeing the reviews and stuff for it.
Well, I'll be.
Yeah.
I said, did it include the sex scene in Epping Forest?
Possibly not.
I bet that looked good on
Mind you, I
Spectrum
suppose they
graphics.
did have Sam Fox's strip poker, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Heavily pixelated.
Well, I think we can all agree that it's worth a look if you're a fan of Nigel Kneale,
Yes,
if
it
you've seen
is.
Quatermass, if you want to investigate a little bit more of his oeuvre, then I think it's, like you say, it's a curiosity, isn't it?
Well, I think if you'd...
Yeah, I think I was going to say it's very much of that sort of ITV studio band. There was a lot of sort of like horror, stroke thriller series on British television at that time.
Yeah.
Because you had like
Armchair
things like
Thriller
this. You
and all
had
those sorts of things.
Armchair Thriller.
Yeah.
Chiller was another one as well. There was just so many, and some of them I do remember from when I was a kid. I was sort of allowed to stay up late.
Yeah.
For whatever reason it was, and I think it was an episode of Chiller that stayed with me to this, right up until now, and I've never seen it since, and it scared the crap out of me. It really did. But this, I was vaguely aware of the name, but I'd never of beasts, but I'd never actually seen any of them.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't disappointed with them at all.
Yeah.
Because I think it's got that. I think certainly for myself and Jim, there's that nostalgia value. Really, I've seen that those actors who are sort of like, still on television now, like people like Pauline Quirk or Michael Kitchen. You see them as very, very young. And again, it just brings back so many memories of being allowed to stay up late or sitting with your parents watching something.
You're saying about seeing that episode of Chiller as a kid, and that's always stayed with you. It's made me think of. I remember we used to be allowed to watch Tales of the Unexpected.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And there was one episode with a guy who had developed this system where he could listen to plants talking.
Oh, yeah.
Had like a radio headset
that rings
thing.
a bell.
And
Yeah.
they were sort of screaming out as like plants were being picked and stuff like that.
Oh,
and that was
God.
really freaky. That really stuck with me.
There was Armchair Thriller as well, wasn't there? And there was that sort of landmark, terrifying episode about the nun.
Oh, yes. Again, I think that was on Talking Pictures TV
was it?
recently.
Oh.
They started showing Armchair Thriller again about
Well, they
7
did
o'clock.
Armchair Theatre,
And
they showed.
Was that Armchair
I'm
Theatre?
not sure they've done Armchair Thriller yet.
They did that. I think they did, but I think that was on
Oh, I might have
later.
missed that. Oh,
Armchair,
that's annoying.
yeah, I think that was on a bit later. Yeah, I know. That's the thing about Talking Pictures TV. There is so much good stuff on there.
It's hard to keep up, isn't
Oh, I know.
Who needs
It's
Netflix,
Really,
eh?
really good.
it?
Well, do you know what? If Netflix showed programs like Beast or Armchair Thriller, I'd sign up for it.
Britbox might be doing stuff like that, because it's an ITV BBC joint venture, isn't it? So we could well start seeing stuff like this.
Well, the thing is, wasn't that meant to be the? We're going wildly off topic here. Wasn't that meant to be sort of the raison d'etre of the BBC store when it got launched? You could buy these TV series on, and own them online. And the thing that got me hooked into that, it never happened, was having the old Parkinson chat shows on there.
Oh yeah.
Because they're meant to put all of them there to view or buy or whatever the hell it was. Because you think about what he had on there. He said he had the actors and actresses from the golden age of Hollywood on there. They'd all been out of the studio contracts, all old now, and they can just come on and talk about their lives without fear of being held to account by a particular studio. And he said it was a fantastic time to be a chat show host. So I was really looking forward to seeing them because, again, Parkinson was another late night television.
Yeah, it's a bit of a staple, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Some night it was on about 11 o'clock at night. It was on after Match of the Day, so it was too late for me as a kid. So I was really looking forward to seeing this, and of course the whole thing got shut down. It just couldn't compete with the likes of Netflix.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, well, maybe with joint backing, maybe they can make it work.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so.
It sounds like it's been quite successful in North America, because I hear the guys on Radio Free Skaro talking about it quite a lot, and they seem to really appreciate a lot of the shows that are on it. The Sandbaggers and things like that.
Yeah, that gets a lot of interest.
Yeah,
I look forward to seeing that at some
does
point.
it?
Yeah.
No, so I think, anyone who listens to this, I'll say, go and watch these. They're really good.
Well, the other thing is that they're available on a certain well-known video streaming channel.
Video streaming sites, yes.
They're also, it's a network DVD, isn't it? Which also has another one-off episode thrown in, doesn't it? It's Moraine, which is from the ITV's Against the Crowd series, which is all about, another anthology series all about people who kind of stand out from the crowd. There's an excellent episode on there about it's a Yorkshire village. I think it's a mining village. I haven't watched it for a while, but there's a woman in there who's suspected to be a witch. And
yes, and all the local farmers are absolutely. One of them being Bernard Lee,
M
himself. Yes,
and the main bloke in it is he's a vet, isn't he? The main bloke in it, he's Alistair Fergus, who's the TV reporter from The Demons, Doctor Who.
Yes,
it's a lead role in this. That's really good as well. So it's.
And I can't remember the actor's name, but one of the other farmers in it is the president of Androzani Minor.
Oh yes, yes, who's also the terrifying dad in Noah's Castle. Do you know that?
Oh yes, I think that might be available on network DVD as well.
And it was shown by Talking Pictures TV. That's what I said.
Yes, it was.
Actually...
This episode has been brought to you by Network DVD.
Well,
and Talking Pictures TV.
Well, that might be worth. It might be worth watching Noah's Castle, because it's all about food shortages, which may well be happening in this country fairly soon.
Well, yeah.
So watch that and get some tips.
Yes, indeed.
And on that note, I think we'll go for a commercial break. And when we come back, we'll be asking the chaps for their recommendations for our listeners.
Charlie and I were in the park. Then this man came up and said, "Would I like to see some puppies?" And I said yes. And I was going to go, but Charlie stopped me. Charlie's reminded me, my mum says I shouldn't go off with people I don't know. Then the man went away. We went and told Mummy, and she said we'd been very good. I got an apple and Charlie got something he likes. He says never go anywhere with men or ladies you don't know.
And welcome back. So now we've reached that point in the show, we're going to do our recommendations for our listeners. And I think Jim's got a couple of things for us. Jim.
Right, yes, thank you very much. I've got two things. One is a TV programme, the other is a musical movement.
Ooh.
I don't mean one movement from a symphony.
Are they going to start breaking out some dance moves?
You don't want to see my musical movement. It's not very good. The TV programme is Yonderland. Now, on the back of the success of Ghosts on BBC One recently, which was made by the original Horrible Histories team, the 6 people: Matthew Bainton, Lawrence Rickard, Ben Wilbond, Jim Howick, Martha Howe-Douglas and Simon Farnaby. In between Horrible Histories and Ghosts, they did a series called Yonderland for Sky, which is a spoof on sort of Tolkien-esque fantasy, Tolkien-esque fantasy world with a bit of Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe thrown in. Mm-hmm. It is extremely funny. It is family friendly with some disgustingly rude jokes in it, which go over my 8-year-old daughter's head, but thankfully. So it's one of those things you can watch on a couple of different levels. It is very, very funny. It's available. I don't have Sky, so I don't know how accessible it is on there. But I do have Now TV, which is their kind of Sky streaming service, isn't it? All 3 series are available there. The first series is like rocking horse shit in terms of availability on DVD.
Right.
Series 2 and 3 are easily available. I
wonder if it's a rights thing or something, maybe.
I suppose it must be, because YouTube have got the rights to show 2 and 3, but they can't show 1 for some reason. Now TV can though, so that's one way of seeing it.
Okay.
Excellent stuff. Oh. So I thoroughly recommend that. Very, very funny.
Oh, that sounds like a good choice.
Yes.
And your musical movement, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, well, it's part of an overall movement called Hauntology. Haun.
Going back to Bob Fleming and his drinking horn.
Nothing to do with horns unless there's a creepy rural horn involved. No, Hauntology, it's all about, it's quite hard to describe, unfortunately, but it's all about the kind of slightly creepy nostalgia you get from old sort of mid to late 70s, early 80s TV programs. So if you think of HTV shows like Sky and Children of the Stones and things like that, and what's that weird thing with Bok turns up in? Forgotten it. Sorry. There's another sort of one-off BBC thing. I think it was like a weird rural thing with sort of satanic overtones on tip of my tongue. It might come to me in a minute.
I think that's called Canine and Company. You weren't thinking of that.
It's not. You're not thinking. Is it Robin Redbreast?
No, it's in that. There's a collection of one. There was sort of Redshift, Robin Redbreast, and the one who's Pender's Fen.
Pender's Fen.
Yes.
That's the one. Okay. That's the one. Yeah.
So it's that's I suppose the kind of feeling that this sort of movement is trying to recreate. The musical side of it is sort of very creepy, nostalgic, often melancholic, often sort of rural, analog synth type stuff with sometimes with a few sort of rural instruments or folk instruments thrown in as well.
Okay. Interesting.
The easiest way to describe it, I suppose, is they sound like sort of lost HTV kids sci-fi TV theme tunes. for a lot of them do. In terms of albums, a couple I'd recommend is From Out Here by The Advisory Circle and The Bellbury Tales by Bellbury Polly. I have, if anyone out there is interested and has a Spotify account, I've made a couple of Hauntology playlists.
Excellent. We'll stick those in the show notes, and then people will be able to get on and have a listen.
Great, yeah. So under my name, Jim Cameron, one is Hauntology and the other is Hauntology Sleep, which I've used occasionally for that purpose. Yeah. They're the sort of mellower offerings from these things, but it's it's a way of kind of evoking that weird feeling you got about watching these kids' shows when you were that age. In that era, I suppose
sounds really interesting. I might have to check that out.
I suppose thinking about the actual demographic, it might be quite limited. appeal, but it certainly works for me.
Old codgers like the three of us, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. But yeah, so
That's
I
excellent. That's
recommend
really
both of those things.
And Phil, what have you got for us?
Well, I've got a couple of TV series for you, actually. Now, the first one I mentioned this when we were talking about Nigel Kneale's Beast. It is the Ghost Stories of M.R. James. There was a strand that the BBC showed, I think in the very early 1970s, actually, and it was shown traditionally on Christmas Eve. And as I say, for the non-UK listeners, or maybe sort of UK listeners now who are not aware of this, there was a tradition of ghost stories being told on Christmas Eve. Yeah. And the BBC decided to dramatise some M.R. James ghost stories, which I think was I can't remember the names of the book. The Ghost for Antiquities or something like that. If I can pronounce it properly. But some of them, if you like your horror atmospheric, it's more supernatural than horror, I would say. But so you can buy them as a DVD box set. I think they're actually released by the BFI, the British Film Institute.
Yeah, I've got one. It's a BFI one, and it was had an adaptation of The Signalman.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yes. And I think it had Whistle and I'll Come to You as well.
Well, actually, yes. Actually, The Signalman is actually Charles Dickens.
That's right. Yeah.
Rather than M.R. James.
Yeah.
But so that's the only. I think there's one. I think it's The Ice House, which isn't M.R. James, and it's probably the weakest there because it's set in modern or then contemporary times. So it's probably the weakest out of the lot. So, but the true M.R. James ones are absolutely fantastic. Very, very atmospheric. And I think there's only one that's absolute out and out horror, which is the Yew Tree.
Oh, yeah. That's terrifying.
It is. Yeah. It is terrifying. Which my dad terrified me with, which he misremembered. He called it the ash tree. And for years, I wanted to know. He told me about this thing called the ash tree. I'm not going to spoil this one for anybody because what he told me about it absolutely petrified me. And that image he put in my mind stayed with me. And when I got this box set and saw the Yew Tree, and I thought, is this what my dad was talking about? I kept Googling the ash tree.
It's the other way around, isn't it? Isn't it the other way around? Isn't it called the ash tree? You might have called it the Yew Tree.
I think you're right. Sorry, it's the. I think you're right. Sorry, yes, my mistake. But I was googling the Yew Tree, ash tree, whatever it was, and I couldn't find
the Yew Tree. That was Jimmy Savile, wasn't it?
A completely different kind of horror that was.
Yeah.
Too soon, gentlemen. Too soon. So when this popped up in the DVD box set, and I finally saw it, I thought all those childhood images bore fruit, basically. It is an absolutely terrifying story, and plus it's got Lalla Ward in it as well.
Oh well, what's not to like? What's
not to like? Indeed. So I highly recommend that one. The other TV series, and this is completely different. It's something called the Brokenwood Mysteries.
Okay.
And it's kind of like New Zealand's answer to Midsummer Murders. So if you I think it's currently being shown on the Drama channel on Freeview at the moment. I highly recommend it. It's like, as I say, it's very much like Midsummer Murders. If you like your detective dramas, very easy going, then you'll enjoy this as well. I just the first time I saw it because my wife and I are very heavily into the Scandi dramas as well.
Oh right, yeah.
And then this one popped up. I think we also watched Hinterland, which is a Welsh detective drama, very very grim, and again in that whole Scandi drama sort of atmosphere. Brokenwood, we come across it completely by accident, and it's nothing like a Scandi drama at all. But we got hooked on it. And it's very sort of gentle and whimsical, and it's just easy. It's just easygoing television, but it's very very quirky as well, and all the characters are instantly likable. So I really really recommend it. I'm not too sure if it's available on DVD at the moment, but I know they are making another series. So I think the series 5 is due out this year. Funnily enough, it didn't go down too well with New Zealand viewers or New Zealand critics, I should say. I think they found it just a bit too gentle and a little bit too long. Whereas Midsummer Murders is on for 2 hours, and they say 2 hours is too long a time for a detective drama.
Mm.
So all I can say is New Zealanders must have a very short attention span. But no, I find it very, very enjoyable, and I've tried to get as many people as possible to start watching it. So,
Wow.
so that's my second recommendation.
Excellent, thanks, Phil. I've got a couple as well. So slightly tied in with Jim's music movement to a degree. It's an American singer-songwriter called Kishi Bashi.
Oh yeah.
Who's of Japanese descent. And his most recent album is called Omoiyari, which is a Japanese word. I can't remember what it means now, but it's a really impressive album. It mixes a bit of electronica, but you've also got country instruments. So you've got stuff like banjo, and he's a very highly trained string musician. So there's lots of really beautiful, lush strings on it as well, violins and what have you. And it's quite poppy. It's quite a summery sounding album, but it's at its heart, it's actually a concept album about Japanese people being interred in America during World War II. But, you can just listen to it on a certain level and just think, oh, that's a really good pop tune. But there's some really good songs on that, and I've been listening to that for the last couple of months, and it's really good. I came across it. We've got one of these internet radios, and I was just scanning through the channels, and there was I think it's a Seattle station was playing it, and I thought, oh, I'll have a listen to that, and it was really good. I was really impressed. So that's one. The other one is a podcast. It's called Unsee The Future. It's by a former guest on the show, a gentleman by the name of Timo Peach, who also goes by the name of Momo Tempo because he's one of these incredibly annoying polymaths. He's such a clever guy. He is a very talented graphic designer. I think that's how he earns his bread. But he's also a musician. He makes the best feel-good pop music under the name Momo Tempo. He's done a couple of albums now, and they are just brilliant. But he's also ventured into the world of podcasting. And his podcast is called Unsee The Future. And he covers the whole gamut of subjects, and is one of those rare things where there's not many people who can just do a one-person show and hold the listener's attention for the whole thing. And he's brilliant. He really is very, very good. He's also incredibly modest. So if you compliment him, he's just he just doesn't accept any kind of praise whatsoever. But I'm going to give a shout out for it. It's so good. I mean, he covers things like climate change, the economy, cars, energy, poverty, education, sexuality, politics, the whole gamut. And it's really, really good listening. So it's available on all the usual places, Apple Podcasts and all the rest of it. So Unsee The Future.
Good. Sounds good.
Good.
Yeah, so that's it for another episode. I'd like to thank you both very much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure having you on. Before you go, I'd like you both to just give a little plug to your various shows. So if we start with Phil first.
Okay. You can find... I'm actually involved in 2 Doctor Who podcasts now, actually. My sort of our own podcast, I'll do my best friend Paul, and our seldom heard other member Tony, the Who's He podcast. Yes, so you can find that one on iTunes and Spotify, the usual places.
It does feature one of the best segments of any Doctor Who podcast in the history of Doctor Who podcasts, and that is Omega's Tat Corner. It is brilliant. Scares the life
Yes,
out of our cat every time it comes on because
fair
we
enough.
like to play Omega shrieking at the top of his voice. But explain to the listeners just in case they haven't heard.
Yeah, well, we introduced Omega's Stats Corner as well, which is Omega wailing. So, because nobody likes stats. Even
That's right.
So,
Yeah, it's a Stats Corner. Sorry.
Yeah, Stats Corner.
Yeah.
So, so we're going about sort of nearly 8 years now, actually, to be honest. So, yes, we're going a long time. So you can find us Unsee Podcast. Then the other podcast I'm now involved in is one of the co-hosts on the recently resurrected Doctor Who podcast. So again, we've been going about 4 months now. It's gone back to on a monthly basis rather than weekly as it was before.
Yeah.
I think mainly because there's not a lot of Who to talk about at the moment, so it's very, very quiet on that front. So yes, very glad to be involved in that one as well. But again, it's you can find us in the usual places, iTunes, etc., etc. And just Google the Doctor Who podcast, and you can find all the various media threads there.
Excellent. And you're on Twitter and all those other things as well.
Yes, we're all there. You got to say if you just Google it, it will come up.
Excellent.
There you are.
Jim.
Well, I only do one podcast at the moment. That is the Krynoid Podcast. I think that's been going for 8 or 9 years as well. It's very long monthly episodes in which my podcast partner...
You guys do like to go into detail, don't you? I mean...
We like to go into detail about the detail. Yeah,
it is brilliant. It is a brilliant show.
Oh, thank you.
Not wishing to,
blow smoke up my ass.
make you too big-headed, but it's you get a lot of bang for your buck.
Yeah, if your buck is 0, which is what we charge for it.
Well, you need to rectify that. You need to start up one of these Patreon accounts.
We could. I'm not sure anyone would pay for what we produce, but it's my podcast part is one of my oldest friends, Martin, also a lifelong Doctor Who fan. We tackle one classic Doctor Who story each month, and we go into mind-numbing detail about plot, behind-the-scenes stuff, and then we kind of do a review of what we thought of the thing, and then we get feedback from our listeners. And so they're sort of between 2 and 3 hours long most of the time. And plenty of them. I think we're about to do 100. I think we're about to release episode 120, something like that. Anyway, we're available in the usual places: Facebook, Twitter, WordPress. Krynoid is spelled Krynoid, named after a vegetable monster from the Seeds of Doom in Doctor Who.
My memory isn't the best because I'm knocking on a bit now. Have you covered the Daleks master plan yet?
We haven't. We might be.
I'm wondering how that's going to pan out.
We might have to take a month off work to do that one.
Well, you've done the War Games, Jim, so come on.
I mean, that's,
we did that for our...
It's quite an undertaking.
Yeah, we did that for our 100th episode. I think our 150th episode may well be the Daleks Master Plan. So we're trying to work out a way of doing that, which doesn't take half a day to listen to.
Well, thank you both so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you, and maybe you'd like to come back another time and we'll talk about something else.
Love to. Thanks for having me.
Oh, love to. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you.